All right, what is going on, you guys? Brian back here, and this is my Monday Night Raw recap for tonight's episode. And this week's episode is in the books, and boy, oh boy, what an episode! So let's just get right into it. A huge surprise twist at the end, as far as a new member to the as what they're calling Seth Rollins now, the Monday Night Messiah group of Seth Rollins and the AOP, and I'll get into that one in just a moment. We saw the first ever fist fight match. It was AOP and Seth Rollins taking on Big Show, Kevin Owens, and Samoa Joe. Basically, it was no holds barred, no DQ. The only way to the match is going to end is via referee stoppage, and I'll get into that in just a moment as well. We had Drew McIntyre in a triple threat match against AJ Styles and Randy Orton at the beginning of the show. Drew McIntyre was victorious in that one. Ricochet picking up some momentum heading into the Royal Rumble a week from Sunday. He defeated Mojo Rawley. Ricochet, along with McIntyre, Styles, Randy Orton, among others, in the men's Royal Rumble match. We saw a bit of not much of a rematch from last week, but a bit of a grudge match involving Charlotte Flair and Sarah Logan. This one was pretty short. It seemed like there was a lot of brawling on the outside, but Charlotte Flair would pick up the win via the figure 8. So getting a measure of revenge against Sarah Logan from last week, where she attacked her before a match and basically was like ripping on her robe and stuff like that. So Charlotte Flair with a bit of revenge tonight. We had an in-ring segment from WWE Champion Brock Lesnar and his advocate Paul Heyman, talking about how Brock is going to make history, winning the Royal Rumble at number 1. All this stuff. R-Truth would come out and basically would wind up getting beat down by Brock Lesnar, getting hit with an F5. And then Mojo Rawley would come out and attack R-Truth and pin him and become the new 24/7 champion. And then Mojo Rawley was like, I'm not running from anyone. I'm right here. If you guys want this title, come and try to take it. We had another rematch. It was Rusev taking on Bobby Lashley. This whole storyline of Lashley versus Rusev, Lashley, Lana, Rusev. Now Liv Morgan is involved. Lana and Liv Morgan would kind of get into an altercation outside the ring. That would cause Rusev to get distracted, and Lashley would hit the spear on Rusev to pick up the win. Then Lana would issue a challenge to Liv Morgan and Rusev for next week for a mixed tag team match, and Rusev and Liv Morgan would accept. We had the Viking Raiders taking on the Singh brothers. The Viking Raiders are the current Raw Tag Team Champions. They would basically destroy the Singh brothers from the opening bell, or even before the bell, and pick up the win in that one. And what looks to be maybe the final match in the series between Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy. Aleister Black defeats Buddy Murphy with Black Mass, and pretty much that was it for that one. Buddy Murphy would spend the rest of the show outside of the ring, sitting contemplating what to do next. Eric Rowan, he would pick up a win over a unnamed opponent. I don't know what he has in that cage, but he went to reach in, and whatever it was bit him or something like that on his hand, and that pretty much angered Eric Rowan to the point where he just destroyed his opponent. And that was pretty much it. We found out that next week, based on what happened last week with Andrade and Rey Mysterio, next week it is going to be Andrade defending the U.S. title again against Mysterio, this time in a ladder match. Of course, what happened last week, Mysterio lost his rematch to Andrade. Andrade would wind up ripping off the mask of Mysterio. Mysterio would wind up attacking him backstage, stealing the U.S. title. They had an interview segment with Andrade and Zelina Vega talking about that, and Zelina was like they called the authorities and all this other stuff, and basically called Mysterio a criminal, saying that Mysterio should not be representing the Latino heritage and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to this match next week, Mysterio and Andrade in a ladder match for the U.S. title. Then we move on to AOP and Seth Rollins versus Big Show, Kevin Owens, and Samoa Joe. First ever fist fight 6-man tag team match. Basically, it was no rules, no holds barred. Kind of a not even a good matchup in that. The ending was surprising. Buddy Murphy was on the outside of the ring, sitting from his loss to Aleister Black earlier in the night. Seth Rollins would end up being tossed out of the ring by Big Show. AOP and Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens would be fighting up on near the commentary area. So Big Show and Seth were fighting in the ring. Rollins would get tossed out of the ring by Show. He would basically plead with Buddy Murphy to help him, with this. And Buddy Murphy would listen, and he would come in the ring, deliver a low blow to Big Show. Basically, it would turn into where AOP took out Owens and Samoa Joe. Then they would come back in the ring when Big Show had the advantage on Seth. And getting rid of Buddy Murphy, they would go after the AOP would go after Big Show. They would powerbomb him, and that would set up Seth to hit the stomp on Big Show, and thus referee looked at the other referee that was checking on Owens and Samoa Joe, and basically would stop the match and declare Seth and the AOP the victors. So a new disciple, as they called him, joining Seth Rollins and AOP in the form of Buddy Murphy. I was kind of surprised. I didn't know. I thought something was up when when Buddy Murphy was just sitting at ringside for the rest of the show after he lost. So I'm like, wait a minute, why is he just sitting there? And here come to find out, this is what they probably had planned. So it looks like Seth Rollins has a new disciple joining him and the AOP. So with that being said, they also announced that Brock Lesnar, for the third week in a row, is going to be on Raw next week. So 3 times in the start of the year before the Royal Rumble, Lesnar will be on Raw making an appearance. So it is what it is. So that's for next week. So basically I ran down everything. Andrade and Mysterio ladder match for next week should be exciting. And also they did have the contract signing for the Raw Women's title match with Becky Lynch, the Raw Women's Champion, and Asuka. That match is set for the Royal Rumble. Asuka, they both signed a contract, and then Asuka would spew the mist into Becky's face, and then Becky, after getting her eyes flushed out on the outside of the ring to try to get that mist out of her eyes, would make it very clear that she's coming for Asuka at the Royal Rumble, and she's going to beat her and all this stuff. So that's going to be So that's that. That actually happened. I believe it happened after the Viking Raiders and the Singh brothers match. That was the segment after that particular matchup. So, all in all, this week's episode, not very much episode for it. I'm actually looking forward to tomorrow night's episode of Impact Wrestling to see the fallout from last night's Hard to Kill pay-per-view event, to see what the fallout's going to be with that. So I'll probably have a recap video for that tomorrow, as well as trying to watch AEW Dark and NWA Power. So with that being said, I thought this week's episode of Raw was okay, was not all that great, but it is what it is. So with that in mind, this has been my Monday Night Raw recap for tonight's episode. As always, I am Brian, and thank you for watching.